nucleus is the intelligence of the cell, but you can take a nucleus out and the cell will survive for about a week.
No way. Industrial oils are not as bad as everyone sort of makes out. What are your thoughts on this? Is it fictional hype, basically?
I'm laughing because it's a very complex topic, and it's not a very sexy topic, actually. I've been meaning for ages to write an article and like give some talks at a conference on it, but I must have spent a good 250 hours of research into this, and just realised that I just got a bit overwhelmed, and I thought I'll come back to it, and then. But anyway, I did eventually come back to it. So, where to start? So the general narrative, if you go into Diary of a CEO, for example, seed oils are toxic. Seed oils cause problems. They cause inflammation. They increase your risk of cancer, etc. So where to start? Let's just start with the basics. Seed oils, what do we mean? So they are sunflower oil, rapeseed oil, if we're in the UK in general. Sometimes corn oil, but that's exceptional. In the US, it's either canola oil, which is rapeseed oil, or soybean oil, or corn oil. All of these oils, all of these plants are very high in omega-6. So you've probably all heard of like omega-3 fish oils. So omega-6 is like the cousin molecule. And omega-6 is vitally important in its raw form. I need to emphasize this, in its raw form. So in a plant structure, it's vitally important because in our cells, so as you probably appreciate or remember from biology, we're all made up of 50 trillion cells, roughly. And around the cell is something called the cell membrane. And the cell membrane is also known as the intelligence of the cell. And to put this in perspective, a lot of people think the nucleus is the intelligence of the cell, but you can take a nucleus out or like in a Petri dish, you can take the nucleus out and the cell will survive for about a week.
No way. If
you puncture the cell membrane, it lasts less than a day. It lasts a few hours.
Wow.
Roughly a quarter to a third of this cell membrane is made up of plant omega-6. So the original form omega-6 structure, linoleic acid. I'll repeat that, linoleic acid. That omega-6 that I just described, that makes up about a third of the cell membrane, outnumbers omega-3 by about 4 to 1. The ratio is an estimate, it's 4 to 6 to 1 roughly. So that's vitally important to understand. However, when we then cook with these oils, again, the sunflower oil, the rapeseed oil, we're heating those molecules up and they contain multiple double bonds. So they're known as polyunsaturated fatty acids. Poly meaning multiple or more than one. These double bonds make this omega-6 molecule very vulnerable to heat and damage, and you change that molecular structure. And when that happens, the body will process and detoxify a lot of those fats out, but some of them will be shunted into the cell membrane in the wrong structure, in the wrong shape. And that is fine. We have huge resilience. We have huge redundancy built into our system to deal with that, but at a price, which is the consumption of antioxidants. Because what is happening is you are shunting in a molecule that's been damaged and it's far more vulnerable to reacting with oxygen. And the immune system and the antioxidant systems have to then effectively try and counter that and repair that damage, which is fine. But if you're living in a modern world, stressing, not eating as many vegetables as you should, you are going to increase the likelihood of oxidative stress. You're going to accelerate your aging. You're going to increase the risk of inflammation. You're going to increase your risk of cancers. And this is the important bit. So, and by the way, just to emphasize, I've literally, in my research, I was reaching out to organic chemists and experts in these fat molecules. They were not able to answer. A lot of them weren't able to answer the questions and the things that I'm telling you right now. So the omega-6 molecule in its raw form, that if we had a sunflower seed, that raw form linoleic acid molecule has just the right number of double bonds. And that is important because, as I mentioned, they should be in the cell membrane that allows the transfer of oxygen across the cell membrane. So this omega-6 molecule is perfectly structured, perfectly designed. It's not an accident, perfectly designed by nature to allow the transfer of oxygen across the cell membrane. That is important because obviously we need oxygen for energy, but also on Diary of a CEO, they had a guest, his name, Professor Seyfried. I don't know if you watched the episode.
No.
A cancer expert, and he was talking about the Warburg effect. And Otto Warburg is this scientist, Jewish Nobel Prize winning biochemist, and discovered that if you deprive a cell of oxygen long enough, even just by 20-30%, the cell can turn cancerous. So if you've got the right amount of omega-6 or the right types of omega-6 in the raw forms in the cell membrane, you have this optimal oxygen transfer. So in theory, you significantly reduce the risk of developing cancers because you've got optimal oxygenation. If, as I mentioned, you're shunting in loads of fats that have been heated for long periods of time, so again, through your crisps, or your fish fingers, or restaurants, whatever it is, you're shunting in these damaged fats into the cell membrane and consuming more antioxidants, or you're stressing the antioxidant system, which is already quite overburdened with modern life. So, in essence, if you're consuming huge amounts of vegetable oils, just be aware that you are going to be draining your antioxidants. So you need more antioxidants to counteract that damage. Longer term, accelerated aging, increased risk of inflammation, increased risk of cancer, and heart disease as well. We haven't talked about heart disease. Fatty acids are very, very important in the context of heart disease.